Welcome back, and today I have 6 awesome knives that I think you should add to your collection. First up, the Beyond EDC Slim. This is a Dirk Pinkerton design, full-size EDC at 8.75 inches with a 3.9 inch Wharncliffe blade of 14C 28M blade steel. This thing came ridiculously sharp, and that Wharncliffe blade is going to be a super powerful cutter, great at in-hand cuts. And the very fine, precise point right there is going to be great for drag cuts, precision work. And this thing came very, very sharp out of box, sliced very, very well. And the fairly neutral handle was very ergonomic because you have nice contoured micarta scales that fill out the hand nicely. No hot spots to speak of, no matter which grip you hold the knife in. They do also have some functional jimping up top for people who like jimping. And I found their 14C held up just fine. It has a high flat grind on this blade, so it performed excellent with all the cutting I did. The only thing that it's going to struggle with is cutting on a flat surface unless you lift it up onto something to where you can cut down so your knuckles don't come in contact with the cutting board. But other than that, it performed outstanding. The action on the knife is a wonderful drop shut action on bearings, nice flipper action that comes rocketing out. Very, very satisfying action there. You have a well-balanced knife, so it's light in the hand for its size. You have a tip-up, deep carry, left or right-handed pocket clip. Now for the nitpicks and complaints. I wish they would have extended the sharpening choil. It's already starting to widen up in the back. It can be done yourself because it has an internal stop pin, so you can widen that up yourself if you'd like. I don't love this type of micarta, but it does add grip and it was comfortable. And I really wish they would have inset that pocket clip into the micarta. And also on the closing action, I could feel it kind of felt gritty, and that is because I don't know if you can see this, but the detent ball track goes through the blade steel marking right there. Now it will start to wear a track through it and it'll be just fine. It's still nice and smooth even though it goes over that. But I think my biggest pet peeve on the knife is the jimping behind the flipper tab. I cannot stand when they do that because when you flip, every time you land, it's going to land on that. Now, it's not terrible. It's not super sharp or anything, but it just didn't have to be there. It doesn't really serve much of a purpose because you're going to go in front of that no matter where you hold it. So I would have loved to see that not there at all. But other than that, I really, really like the knife. This thing comes out at $60. Can I recommend it? Yes, if none of those things are deal breakers to y'all. I absolutely love the knife. Next up, we have another Beyond EDC knife, and this is the Thwaak. This is a Todd knife and tool design. You have a reverse tanto blade here, 14C 28M blade steel. I absolutely love 14C. It's my favorite budget steel in the $60 and under price range. You have a satin finish on it. Very, very smooth action on this one. The blade's going to be good for just about any type of cutting you do because you have just enough belly to cut on a flat surface. You have a needle light point for doing drag cuts, and you can kind of choke up on this forward finger choil area and get right up to that edge because that edge is terminated all the way to the back right there. The knife came super sharp out of box and performed all the tasks I put it up against very, very well. Sliced very well through the cardboard, no problem at all. And doing any of those drag cuts, this thing was like a little scalpel going through them. It had a nice toothy edge to it. It was pushing through the sisal rope without any issues whatsoever. And also when I got to that denim, that edge was still holding up very, very well. I definitely was surprised by how well this one held up. But like I said, 14C is usually, you know, an excellent steel because they can heat treat it pretty easily. This knife shines with his action as well. Very, very smooth action. You have a flipper, excellent flipping action, and you can use that fuller or that blade hole to do the reverse flick, thumb flick it. You can slow roll it. Excellent, excellent action. This one has a tip up left or right-handed pocket clip as well. And throughout all my testing up here in this choke up grip was nice and comfortable, nice and powerful, and I had no hot spots to speak of. Now back here, you're pretty far from that edge, and I have about a 3.5 finger grip, so you're going to want to choke up on that. Now if you had fat sausage fingers, this is probably not the knife for you because I don't think you'd be able to choke up in this area. Nitpicks and complaints on this one. I wish I would have used better micarta, but at $60 price point, I'm okay with it. Inset that clip into the micarta. That would have been another great thing. And I'm okay with the edge coming all the way to the back right here because you can sharpen it up to right here. But if you want, you could also add a sharpening choil in it as well. So if you're looking for a medium-sized knife at 7 inches with a 2.875-inch blade, then this is the knife for you. Another one that I enjoyed using, enjoyed testing, and enjoyed fidgeting with as well. Next up, we have the Oknife Sentry R1. This was probably the most surprising knife on this list. This thing performed outstanding. And if you like big blades, this one's for you at 10.25 overall length and a 4.5-inch blade. It has a very broad 14C 28N blade on here with a satin finish. You can call this whatever you want. This is a modified something, drop point, Wharncliffe, whatever. It doesn't matter. You have that high full flat grind. The blade steel on this is very thin at 0.087, and it's sharpened at 15 degrees per side on my particular knife. They're running the 14C at 60 to 62 HRC, and this thing sliced like nobody's business. I mean, super slicey. You have excellent edge geometry. It came ridiculously sharp and made everything seem like it wasn't even there. The cardboard, it passed through it so effortlessly. It's pitiful. And when I got to the thicker materials like the tubing, wow, this thing went in excellent. The rope, I was using very minimal force to get through that rope. And 14C is a very tough steel as well, so it can handle these thinner edge geometry, especially when heat treated properly. 14C can hold a great edge as well, and you have 4.5 inches of blade length to use, so you're going to get a lot of cutting out of this before you dull it out. And not to mention, 14C is very easy to strap back as well, so you should be able to hold this, keep this edge for a good amount of time. The ergos on the knife are nice and comfortable because you have contoured G10 scales. It's nice and smooth, comfortable. Now it is a little bit thinner. For heavier tasks, you probably start to fatigue your wrist and forearms. I didn't whenever I was doing the cutting, but something to note there. Not to mention, this thing has a crossbar lock with phosphor bronze washers, and it's nice and smooth. You can thumb flick it. You can reverse flick it. You can slow roll it. You can open it with the axis lock, however you want. It's going to be a nice sturdy lockup, and this thing only costs $70. Outstanding bang for your buck here. Now, my pet peeves on the knife, it's only tip for right hand tip up only. Now, they did inset the clip and the screws, so that's a positive, but why leave out the lefties? I think this knife would make an excellent camp knife, bug out bag knife, kitchen knife, EDC knife, whatever you want to use it for. I think it's going to be great, and at $70, I think this is definitely one to pick up. The knife's pretty well balanced. It comes in at 5.2 ounces and carries very light and feels very light in hand. Next up, we have the Kizer Klipper. Now, this one surprised me as well. This is a medium-sized EDC knife at 7.25 inches with a 3.125-inch blade. You have a full flat ground blade on this, 154 cm, and they do an excellent job with their 154. It's got a blackwash finish here. They're calling it a Wharncliffe blade. I'd call it a harpoon Wharncliffe, modified drop point, whatever you want to call it. It's totally fine with me. You have a good sharpening choil and that razor-like, needle-like precision point right there. Excellent for doing drag cuts, utility cuts, and you have a very neutral handle here, so every grip is nice and comfortable, at least for me. My medium-sized hands, I still have a good bit left over, so it should fit your large, maybe even extra large hands just fine. The black linen micarta is nice and comfortable, nice and grippy. This blade came stupid sharp out of box and performed so well. Everything I put in front of it, it did outstanding. I was able to push cut through the sisal rope, no problems. I was doing it very fast, cutting through the cardboard effortlessly, and testing the ergos through the piece of birch was very comfortable because it's such a neutral handle. Now, it is a flat scaled knife, so, you know, prolonged cutting, you might start to feel the edges of it or something, but for me and the cutting I did, I thought it was very comfortable, no hot spots to speak of. It has a tip-up deep carry pot clip that is reversible. Excellent job, excellent access to the lock bar. The action on it is outstanding with that front flipper. It's more of like a top flipper there. It's one of those rollover. That's the easiest ones for me to do, and it's very easy to manipulate. Now, my nitpicks and complaints, I wish they would have inset that clip into the micarta just so nothing gets hung up there. I would have loved to have contoured scales, but that would have made the price go up. And even though you do have some sharpening life, I would have liked to see that extended just a little bit, but you can extend it yourself because you have an internal stop pin. And my personal preference, I'm not really a front flipper fan, but it does keep this a little bit more streamlined, not having thumb studs or a flipper in the back. So if you're looking for a nice medium-sized EDC knife that has a great action, super slicey, and I think it looks nice as well, then this might be for you at $78. Next up, we have the Finch Knife Co Shiv. This is a smaller size knife at 6.5 inches with a 2.8 inch Wharncliffe blade. It has like a brushed horizontal satin finish there. Kind of looks like a hand rub satin. 14C 28M blade steel. Excellent job there. Nice full flat grind here with a very, very pokey tip there. Excellent for penetrating, excellent for drag cuts, and that full flat grind sliced so well. It's a nice powerful cutter because you have that straight edge, so I could get a lot of force into it even though I have a smaller handle, but this handle flares out like a swayback does. This was another one that came super sharp and it was super slicey. It went through all the material nicely. Now, once I got onto the flat cutting surface, once again, being that it's Wharncliffe, I did have to raise material up to get the cutting done so I wouldn't come in contact with that tip into the board and snap it. So that's something to note. If you do a lot of cutting on a flat cutting surface, then this one is going to kind of hinder you a little bit. But in hand cutting, this thing performed outstanding. And if you wanted to, you could choke up right there. You know, it's not the safest, but you could do it. Now, if you have large, extra large hands, this one's going to be too small for you. The handle was nice and comfortable because you have contoured micarta scales, nice and grippy. You only have a tip-up right hand carry only pocket clip. Now, it is a milled titanium pocket clip that does function nicely. It's a very lightweight knife due to its size. Flow-through construction, 2 hourglass standoffs there. You have internal milling there to lighten it up. It was comfortable and has a very silky smooth action. Now, whenever I got this knife, I did have to take it apart to add my lube to it because it was completely dry. So if you get the knife and it's not flipping all that great, then that's probably why. Flips excellent now. It's gotten smoother and smoother. It's a very light blade, so it's not a complete drop shut blade, but it has a very controlled, fluid action to it. Nitpicks and complaints, like I said, I wish it would have been tapped for lefties as well. Maybe add a little bit more sharpening choil, but you're going to have a good bit of sharpening life, so we'll call that a very minor nitpick there because that's something that I could fix because they do have an internal stop pin. If it's something that's across the board, I would have loved to have some lube in there to make this as smooth as it could be. And if you got to have super snappy actions, this one has just a good action, which is perfectly fine with me. It's nothing, you know, to write home about, but it's nice and snappy, nice and silky smooth. The only other nitpick is the price point. These come in at $79, and for its size, 14C, you could have gotten the Kizer Klipper with 154 or the Oknife Sentry R1, which is a massive knife, for $70. So do think it's priced kind of high. Now you do get a milled titanium pocket clip and you do have that brushed finish on there that looks like a hand rub satin. It's definitely a well-made knife. So, you know, it's going to have to depend if the price is warranted for you. I love the knife. You know, it just depends on how much you like Finch knives. And lastly, we have the Spartan Blades Astor. This is a less yardage design, and I absolutely love it. If you're looking for a heavy-duty work knife, this is an excellent one. You got a nice drop point blade, beautiful stonewash finish, and CTS XHP steel. Now, it's not going to be the super slicer like the rest of these that I showed, but it's going to be able to take some abuse, and it should hold the edge for a good amount of time. I love XHP steel. It gets stupid sharp. And I cannot explain how silky smooth the action is on this knife. They have their little brass, I don't know, the little pivot system thing that allows it to keep getting smoother over time, and this one is outstanding. I'm so glad I was able to, you know, pick this one up and do the testing on it because I didn't have a good experience with the smaller knife that they dropped, but this one is outstanding. Nice comfortable handle, nice peel ply G10 for extra grip. Everything I cut with it, it performed nicely. The edge was very, very nice out of box. The jimping is pretty much aesthetic purposes because it is a little bit rounded over. It offers a little bit of traction. I'll call it like medium to light traction. You do have a reversible pocket clip. It's not inset into the frame, and you have a nice tight lockup. Absolutely no play any direction on this one. The reason I say this would be an excellent work knife is because this one's on phosphor bronze washers as well, and you have that nice robust blade with you know, thicker edge geometry for a tougher task. XHP holds a great edge and definitely an overall good looking knife. It's a full size knife as well. The only thing this one kind of struggled on is the tubing whenever I did it, because it, you know, it's not a thin slicer. So once you get it started, then it goes just fine. It held its edge nicely throughout all the testing, and it still has a really nice edge on it. If you haven't tried out the Astor, I would definitely recommend picking one of these up, especially, like I said, if you're looking for a heavier use work knife. These come in at $145. So that's going to do it for the video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace!